democracy. One of the dangers of democracy. So previously I had said, I know of a democracy might not be what God wants, especially elections. What's the problem with election season? A lot of lashon hara goes around, right? Maybe it's better to not have elections that we won't have to engage in so much lashon hara. I'll tell you what I was thinking. First of all, democracy is the way partnerships arrive at decisions. If you have a business, according to halacha, 5 men own a business. So they have to use a democratic process to arrive at decisions. So whenever you have a partnership, people have all are legitimate partners in a business, and if that business is a country, so it makes sense that democracy is the way of doing it. But that's it. It's not a way of life. It's not a philosophy. It's not a religion or worth giving one's life for democracy. You could give your life, let's say, life, fighting for the Torah. Some people, rights of free speech and religion, maybe are things worth fighting for. But at some democracy as a way of determining your government, I don't think it's something worth fighting for sometimes, because sometimes it could work. I gave the example of 2 religious institutions I know, two synagogues. Now, nothing. Don't try to guess where they are. Just I saw they were run both like dictatorships. One was a benevolent dictatorship. One was a revolt. What happened? This happens all over the place. You read about these and things. There's a membership of a synagogue, and suddenly there's the board, or I guess the guy in charge, just says no more board meetings. We're not consulting, but they were just taking over this place. New decisions. So there was one place where they had a weak membership. They voted in a rabbi, and then he's just making decisions on his own. Like no more board meetings, no more membership meetings. No one has a say. He decides for this. And for most people, that's okay because they don't really care. They're not interested. They're not rabbis. They don't know how halacha works. They don't care about the shul. They're too balabatish. Doesn't really matter. And the people who do care go somewhere else to daven because they don't like being dictated to. You're familiar with things. You're still young, but these things happen all over the time, all over the place. Okay, so I remember hearing jokes about shul drama, and then I actually got to see it as an adult. I'm thinking, I thought this was a joke. It's like you're told don't act like this, and you see adults acting like children, and you just like walk away from this. Like, what happened to you people? You were told not to do this. It's like someone saw kids being bullies on the schoolyard, but then they realized, oh, that's where adult bullies come from. Adult bullies are just child bullies who never were disciplined. So that was one place where people were fed up with the system, right? And then there's one place where the shul is also a dictatorship, but it's run by the person who paid for it. It's a private institution, basically. The wealthy guy, who also happens to be a rabbi type himself, built the whole shul himself. It's his private property, and he gives it to the public to come and daven there. No one has a say. No one pays membership dues, but everybody's happy. You know why? Because they like the way he runs it. It's his. It's actually his. So no one can say, "Oh, this guy took the shul from us," or we don't no longer have a board. We don't have our board meetings. We don't have our elections. We don't have a say in this. It's his. You can't. You don't like it, go away. But it never was yours. You understand? So one place is much more. People are much more satisfied. By the way, governments work like that. There are some places where the people are given a choice all the time, democratic process, and they're at each other's throats and they hate each other. Some places they have a benevolent dictator who's, let's say a King David, and they're happy with him. It's his. He makes the decisions. That's it. We're not part of this. I think Saudi Arabia, by the way, which I'm not saying is a good place. It's not tzaddikim, but you think people have democratic rights in Saudi Arabia? But a lot of Arabians are actually kind of happy with their, the dictatorship they live in. It's quite benevolent to them. Why? It's quite wealthy. The kings are wealthy, and they let the people are taken care of for the most part. And if they're missing healthcare, they just send them to Israel. And they could have their prince or whatever, their crown prince or their foreign minister, who's also a prince, saying all these anti-Semitic things, but he has a heart problem. He comes to Israel to get treatment and then go back to his country and act all anti-Semitic. So basically that's why I was just giving a mushal. Perhaps democracy should be that way, settle on something. But then my wife has a mushal, the marriage mushal, and that goes like this. Imagine if I told you were getting married, you have to choose a life partner. That's a very important decision, right? And if you do it right, you want the decision to last for a lifetime. So it's a decision that affects your entire life and it lasts forever, right? Now, if I told you, you know what, you're getting married now, but 5 years from now, there's a checkpoint. You'll get to decide perhaps you want to consider a new marriage partner. And if you've had a marriage partner for 10 years, means you married her once and then you took her, you reaffirm the marriage 5 years in. By 10 years, you have a term limit. You have to get a new wife and go through the whole process again. So what will this do with your decision?
Less picky.
It'll make you less picky, but also it'll lessen the gravity of your decision. It'll become more flippant, right? You want something that when you make a decision on for the long term, and you're hoping it's for the long term, and it's monumentous, you put a lot more deliberation and consideration into the decision, right? If I tell you you'll be able to switch out 5 years in, and you'll have to switch out 10 years in, so no, don't work out, don't work out. People go into marriage, for example, with the idea that don't worry if it doesn't work out, there's always divorce. What do you think happens to those types of marriages? Yeah, usually it goes like that. You go in it's saying like, okay, I'm not quite sure about this, so I have a plan B. So that's pretty bad. So that's the problem. If you say that with the government also, the Torah tells you to have a king. Please plug this in over here. The Torah tells you to have a king. Put a lot of thought into it. It has to be someone that's actually chosen by God. But you're not supposed to have, oh yeah, in 5 years in, you're going to decide, do we want to keep the king? And 10 years in, we're going to have to definitely switch out the king. The point of the process described by the Torah is that you make sure you find the right guy now, and he's going to stay in for the long haul. That's what the Torah recommends for the Jewish people. That's why I'm not so happy with democracy, especially like I said, it's not our religion, it's not a philosophy, not a way of life. It's just a technical tool that partners use to come to a decision, but it's not like something that we should consider as one of our values. And by the way, the idea of democracy as a partnership, people coming to majority rule and deciding what to do as a partnership, is recognized by the Talmud for businesses. So why can't you just apply it on a bigger scale to, let's say, a state or a people? And the answer is that's not what the Torah wants. By the way, what's the halacha? A man who has already decided he's resolved to divorce his wife. For now, they're staying together, but he says, 2 weeks time that's when we're splitting up, and she might even be aware of it. They intend to divorce at a certain point. What's the halacha? Yeah, so he's like he can't keep her around. Then if you're going to do it, you have to do that. You can't have a wife, or especially you can't have intimacy if the intention is to split up. That's a very important thing. So we have to consider this.